In the guidebook, Yana says that Deuce will sometimes make expressions where you can see the Yankee influence, and Deuce is heavily coded as either a former or former aspiring Yankee. For a quick review, the Japanese language term Yankee is for a kind of youth subculture associated with being a rebel and having a tough, flashy appearance, often adopted by teenagers who want to look intimidating, reject societal expectations, be anti-authority, etc. The term is probably from the American word Yankee originally, possibly imported with post-war GI culture, but it is very much its own, independent thing in an example of waseeigo, English words that get new meanings after being adopted into Japanese. Going in the Yankee direction is something that Furio choose to do sometimes, and Furio are referenced often in Twist, translated on en as delinquents, young punks, or bad apples, basically a starting point for kids who will maybe imitate some Yankee styles, get into fights, smoke while underage, skip school, etc. In his club where card artwork, Deuce holds his baton in the same way that Yankee are often depicted holding pipes for fights in fiction. During White Rabbit Fest, Epel says he had only heard of Furio types in comics and TV shows, and Idia and Ortho also talk about Furio of manga, TV shows and movies, and he was shocked to learn that all of it is real. Deuce says, "I know what you mean, I went through a phase like that." Epel says that his preconceived notion of Clock Town involved there being graffiti all over the place, and Deuce mentions experience painting walls with spray paint during the Rapunzel event. When asked if he has done such a thing before, Deuce responds, "I'd use spray paint to, wait, no," and claims his experience comes from painting roses at Hartslobule. Jack observes, "I don't have to read that far between the lines to guess he was probably up to no good." Ace is not one of the people that Deuce has confided in about his past, but he has been calling Deuce out on his Furio speech since the prologue, as his vocabulary is often Yankee-coded, referring to Riddle as Kashira both to his face and behind his back, to Hartslobule as his turf, etc. Note, while boss is a perfectly accurate translation of Kashira, it might not be having the same effect on En, as En will add the word boss to places it was never said, but Deuce is the only character in the game to use the word Kashira, which is why it stands out and why Ace calls Deuce out on it but does not ever say anything to any of the other characters who also say boss on En. It is actually unique to Deuce's speech patterns. Deuce mentions riding a magical wheel before enrolling at NRC, and he discusses blast cycle modifications with Epel that are very reminiscent of the Yankee motorcycle aesthetic. Leona picks up on the Yankee slang in Deuce's dream early on, and the names of the teams also seem to be influenced by Yankee-style naming conventions. The kanji used in the dorm names of Deuce's dream are from both how they sound and for meanings that imply strength, violence, and rebellion. Altogether they are gibberish, but individually they reflect the Yankee aesthetic. Yankee-style writings like this are not really meant to be practical or sensical but more about the look, kind of similar to how heavy metal bands will use dramatic lightning fonts that are not always very legible. The point is looking bold and intimidating, not to make grammatical sense. Ortho comments on this aesthetic directly after hearing Epel's plans for a future blast cycle, saying that his modifications seem practically designed to tank performance, as he does not understand that making sense is not the point, it is about the style. Deuce's pink leopard print outfit of his loungewear is also not uncommon for that aesthetic, and he mentions bleaching his hair, also common with real-life Furio and Yankee. In the Lantern event we learn that Deuce experimented with a variety of different hairstyles back in his Furio days. He does his own hair as well as everybody else's, even placing hair accessories at aesthetically pleasing intervals for Riddle, impressing Vil. Deuce says, "I used to mess with my hair a lot to look more imposing. I mean, to look more stylish, of course." The clothes that Deuce describes liking in the game sound very similar to vintage Yankee fashion that integrated things like heavy embroidery and tiger and dragon motifs, all of which Deuce and Epel talk about in the gym or vignette. Leona comments that it is hard to tell if Deuce wants to be an honors student or a Furio in his dream, with Ortho pointing out that a real Furio probably wouldn't be interested in disputes over things like access to the school library instead of money or physical objects. But that is exactly what happens in Deuce's dream, with Hartslobule students and Octagonal students battling one another with books as weapons over the right to use the library study rooms because they want to score well on tests.
海洋生物ゼロ基調植物自転ガード